Gen Z have witnessed more change societally, culturally, globally in their lifetime than has previously occurred in literally centuries. And this sounds like a bit of a bold claim, but realistically, when you think about technology and the speed of its development and the impact that it's had on the world in such a brief period of time, there is nothing throughout history that caused so much change so rapidly, such that we have experienced in our lifetimes. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Matt. I'm 26, so I'm on the older side of the Gen Z curve. I was born in 1999, so I'm the last of the 90s, and born in a very unique situation where when I was a kid, you know, computers weren't really a thing yet. Like, yes, they existed, but not in the capacity that we know them to be today. They weren't yet a part of your life, really. Maybe if you were lucky in your home, you had a desktop computer, but it was slow and you really only used it for maybe looking at the news or looking something up on Google. Yahoo back then was a search engine, right? And we still watched movies on VHS and we listened to cassettes and DVDs and CDs. Well, DVDs came later, I should say, CDs, right? And just about 10 years later, or maybe 15 years later, we had iPhones. We had Facebook, social media, Snapchat, Instagram, everything's coming out. All of a sudden, the computer's in your pocket. And your entire world and life seemingly revolves around it, right? Suddenly, social media clout is an important thing. Suddenly, the whole way that people communicate with each other changes, which also changes expectations of communication, and so many other things. But that's one thing that I wanted to talk about quickly: the expectations of communication and the stress that that can cause on people, and namely, I think young people, because it's all that they've really known. So if you think about the time before cell phones and tablets, social media, let's say you worked a job, 9 to 5 job. You left the house in the morning, you clocked in at work, you put in your 8 hours, and when you left the work behind for the most part, right? Sure, maybe you're working on a project at home or something, but if somebody, let's say your boss, colleague, wants to get in contact with you, they can't just send you a text and expect that you're going to answer. Maybe they can try to call you, but that was pretty much seen as something that you really don't do, right? There was a clear separation. So when you leave work, you go home, you're at home. Whereas now, with the phones, it's almost like this expectation that if somebody wants to get a hold of you, you got to message them back right away. Because why not? You always have your phone on you. All it takes is 1 second, just reply to the text. But I think we've all experienced ourselves being in a situation where just responding to messages sometimes can be overwhelming. And I know for me, actually, it's an indication of my current mental health and how I'm feeling, the rate at which I respond to messages. So, like, I don't know if you've ever gone through a phase where you got a bunch of texts or emails on your phone that you just left them, you didn't answer them because you just didn't feel like it, and now maybe it's been a few days or a week and you're like, shit, I haven't responded to these messages, right? I always, find that usually correlates, like, if I'm feeling stressed out, overwhelmed about something, I don't want to respond to these messages, right? But there's this expectation, and then you feel guilty. Oh, fuck, I got to respond to this person. Anyways, basically what I'm saying is sometimes I wish we could go back to the days where there was that separation, and it extends to everything. When I was a kid, on a weekend, I would wake up in the morning, I would go out by myself, get on my bike, and go ride to the park by myself for hours, or go meet some friends, knock on a friend's door, go together for hours. My mother knew I was at the park or I was at a friend's house. That's it, right? There wasn't this monitoring. There wasn't this, okay, text me when you get to the park and text me when John gets there and then text me when you get to John's house and make sure you let me know what time you're going to be home. And it's too much. I think not only does it hurt the development of children, but it's too much for everybody. It's almost an over connection. Like independence and privacy, I think, are essential for human health, for human thriving, for development. You need to have times where you're able to do things on your own without anybody looking over your back. And you need to have also time for yourself where nobody is able to interfere with your space. And in a way, this technology is really a way for anybody at any moment to interfere with your space, because the phone's always on you. You're always thinking about it. And things come in, right? Oh, all of a sudden I got to deal with this. So it is definitely interesting, and it's shaped not only communication, but it's shaped how we get our news, who we trust, what we believe. It's shaped the cultural cohesion that we used to have. So this is another big influencing factor of internet and social media that, while can be seen as a positive, also has really negative impact. And that is the ease of access to information or any kind of media that you want at any time, right? So on the surface level, seems great. Any music I want to listen to, any show, any movie, any broadcast, I can find it for myself. Whereas before, if you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to the theater. If you wanted to watch a TV show, you had to wait until 7 p.m. when that new episode of your TV show was airing. If you wanted to listen to music, you either heard it on a radio broadcast or you went to the record store and you picked up an album, a CD, whatever the new release from your favorite artist. And what that does was it made people in society cohesively more on the same page. Because when you're tuning in at 7 o'clock to watch your favorite show, so is your friend, and so is your mother, so is your neighbor, so is Bob on the other side of town, so is Joe that you're going to see at work tomorrow. And it's something that pulls people together because you have a commonality in your culture, in your media. And a bunch of you are all looking forwards to talking about this one show, or, all the Michael Jackson fans can't wait to get the new Michael Jackson album, whatever it might be. Without that, right, with the ease of access that we have now, essentially it's fractured social cohesion and social interest and culture. Because now that people have so much choice, they can choose whatever they want. And instead of having these kind of norms or these cultural, how do you even call it? Cultural similarities, people naturally become more divided, right? Like, oh, well, I only want to listen to this like specific kind of niche music, or I watch this Korean drama that you've never heard of, or you know what I mean? So people they don't have that same thing where you come to the office on a Monday and everybody's ready to talk about the new episode or the new movie that they just watched on the weekend. Instead, everybody's all in their own world, in their own phone, in their own lane. And I think that really creates a completely different experience. And I also think that can contribute to the further breakdown and division that we see a lot of these days, right? Aside from, I don't know, maybe some extremely turmoil-ridden periods in history, I don't think there's ever been so much social division, political division within Western countries as there is now, right? Like there's always been liberals and conservatives, and but it was never hostile. Now it's quite hostile, and I think when you individualize people, you make it easier to split them apart and pit them against each other, right? In the olden days, the olden days, 15 years ago, let's say, maybe you were a liberal and your buddy was a conservative and you disagreed on some political points about the economy or something like that. But it really didn't matter because you guys liked the same show. You both, had similar interests outside of politics. You don't need to talk about that all the time. And at the end of the day, the issues weren't as heated. They weren't as divisive. They weren't as charged as they are now. Whereas now, when you got everybody's kind of an individual. Nobody feels like they're really part of the collective whole so much, or at least I feel that way living here in Canada. You know, sentiment here in Canada is at the all-time worst in the last 5 years. The Canadian Happiness Report for people aged 25 and under, I think it's something like 83rd in the world. Similar to countries like Iraq and other war-torn third world developing countries. That's where we are now in Canada, right? Between the cost of living, the economy, those are the two biggest things. Immigration. People are not happy in Canada, and people don't feel like they really belong. Like there used to be a sense that it didn't matter if you were a liberal, a conservative, whatever. At the very least you were a Canadian, or at the very least you were an American, and you had shared values, and you had your friends, and you had a job, you had your family. And a lot of that seems to have gone out the window, right? I cannot tell you, aside from one friend who, well, he's just a bit of a maniac, if I'm being honest. He always has been. But I can't tell you, aside from him, a single person that I know that right now would in any capacity want to pick up arms and go to war to defend Canada. Because it feels like there's nothing to defend. What am I, And when you lose that societal cohesion and you start to implement divisive politics, you pitch everybody against each other. In the meantime, bringing in millions of people from other countries, inflating the price of assets, printing more money than has ever been printed in the shortest period of time. So all of our money is worth less. All of the houses are worth more. All of the assets are worth more, which you can no longer afford because your money is worth less. Yeah, it sucks. So, this has been a bit of a rant, but I just kind of basically just got on here and just figured I would just run my mouth about anything that came to mind about living as a older Gen Z and my experience and how much change I've witnessed just in my lifetime. But yeah, I guess I'll call it there. But if you can relate to this, or if you have something to add, drop a comment below. I appreciate it. This is a departure from my usual theme of this channel, but whatever. I'm just going to use this channel as an outlet for my thoughts in general, just to continue pumping out the content. But yeah, anyways, all of this isn't to say that you should give up hope and that you shouldn't do anything. I think obviously you should still work hard. I'm trying to work hard. I'm trying to be entrepreneurial and build my own business, even though here in Canada you are punished for it at every opportunity. You're taxed. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur in Canada, which is why all of our best entrepreneurs just leave to the States. Why wouldn't they, right? But nonetheless, I'm out here trying, right? I got an apartment. I have a beautiful girlfriend who I would like to marry one day and start a family with, right? So you can't allow these kind of depressing realities to get you down or kill your drive. But it is unfortunate that this is the reality. And in many metrics, it's funny, the government doesn't like to talk about it. The news doesn't like to talk about it. They like to formulate their headlines in an Orwellian nature so that they can always be presenting good news, even if that news is bad. Like how they say, we're not really in a recession." It's like, okay, whatever you say. Some of our metrics right now, as far as like affordability, unemployment, food bank usage, things like that, are literally at levels that rival, the Great Depression and other similar economic eras of turmoil. It's bad. But we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep building, because that's all that we can do. But yeah, let me know what you think. And I hope you have a great day. I hope I didn't depress you too much with this video. And yeah, cheers, guys.